And we're back. Late night, the Lakers Fast Break. It's Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for joining us right here at the Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciated. Don't forget all the great people who help us out when they can, including next to me, Joe Soro, his company, SimBladeswithY.com, and of course, he's Ox1947, where they're always talking about what's going on with the Lakers at LakersBall.com. Our good friends, Jamie Sweet and Laker Tom at Laker Tom on Twitter. You can see him talking about, well, we thought he was on the straight and narrow and I thought he was doing well, but he's back to calling JJ Redick a legacy head coach, potentially. Again, at Laker Tom, and you can hear him talk about the potentially legacy head coach in his opinion, JJ Redick, as the search continues at Lakerholics.com. Our good friend John Costas working hard. He did a preview of Game 3 coming up about the Celtics and the Mavs, the NBA Finals, Game 3. He did that on his Clutch Talk, and also as well, he does Lakers Corner as well. Go ahead and check out his channels. Of course, our good friend Stone Hansen. He is doing media appearances all over the place for the NBA draft, and you can see what he thinks about what is going on in the NBA draft at report_court on Twitter. Our good friends, Empire Jeff TV, who's on right now as well. Lakers at 5, of course, also as well. Daniel Barry Sports Highlights, Yo, and also John McCallion. Please support all these great channels and, of course, support us right here at the Lakers Fast Break like you have been, and we need more. 1,630 subscribers. It was kind of like I said the other day, kind of weird. We had dropped down to 1,605. I was getting kind of worried when I was on vacation. I come back, we're back strong, above 1,630, and it's all because of you. Please go ahead and help us out by liking, following, subscribing, whatever you can do to support us right here or anywhere on social media at Lakers Fast Break, indeed. Well, Joe, before we go on, I just wanted to say I felt like putting up the intro to the old soap opera, As the World Turns, instead of maybe just putting a Lakers insignia somewhere in there, because the soap opera that is the coaching carousel continues after the spurning by Dan Hurley, the reported 6 years, $70 million contract, not good enough to pry him away from UCONN and bring him over to the West Coast. So does that leave us going back to the jilted one, JJ Redick, the potential legacy head coach that he is, according to Laker Tom? Does it go to James Borrego, who might also be being courted by Cleveland as well, or somewhere else? Many names have been tossed about. Lakers in 5 through Jay Wright, which is somebody that Joe has been talking about for quite some time since he's been on this show. Heard Rondo's name again and again. All these different names are still being tossed around all these weeks later. I just feel like we're at step 1. In fact, I feel like we're almost like Godzilla, which was dropped out last week. I feel like we're Godzilla -1, because I feel like we're now a step behind from even when we just first fired Darvin Ham, who coincidentally got a job sooner than the Lakers found a new coach. But here today to discuss all the Lakers drama, soap opera, and where we go from here. It's a good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check out what he's doing today at SimBlades. You need it. You need a new lawn today from SimBlades, and I'll tell you why. It is hot. Tomorrow here in Vegas, it's backed up to 110. Do you really want your lawn browning and getting all yucky and having to throw a whole bunch of water at it, pissing everybody off because you're wasting water on it? Do yourself a favor. Head on over to simblades.com today and get yourself a new, fantastic looking lawn from this man right here.
Subscriber, huh?
And that would be Joe Soro. And Joe, Great to have you here. Alan, thank you so much for subscribing. And I know you've been a great part of what we've done. Truly appreciate it. And love your thoughts as well on the pop culture cosmos whenever you stop by. But Joe, again, I felt like throwing up the old graphic and the old intro from As the World Turns, because it certainly seems like there's a soap opera going on in El Segundo at the Lakers offices right now.
They're going to have to hire a coach here before the draft. It's looking like they're going to have to settle, which isn't good for the longevity of that particular coach's position. We're still waiting on what kind of deal LeBron is going to get. We still
D'Lo?
We still don't know D'Lo's situation, even though it's important for business purposes to make sure you bring him back. There isn't any information yet on what they're going to do in the draft. The only info we have is just fodder of some guy's kid who isn't good enough to play in the NBA. So the Lakers are continue to be stuck in purgatory. They're in purgatory. They're not able to advance beyond their skill sets, which is how it usually works. It's very few times where someone who isn't capable of doing something can ascend. I mean, it happens, but it's usually a two-way street. But in this case, the Lakers don't have the right material to get the correct coach, make the right deal with LeBron, make the right deal for D'Angelo Russell, take advantage of the draft, or do some kind of trade that you're able to use the draft for. It just doesn't look. It's a complete disaster. I don't even know if soap opera is the right term, actually. It's just not good. It's not good on so many angles. And I can't be positive enough to expect all these things to go the way the Lakers need it to go, because they have to have everything go right if they want to win a championship next year. If any of these don't go right, they're not winning anything. So the Lakers don't have any room for error. They have to get the right coach. They have to make sure that LeBron, that deal doesn't kill them for the next 3 years. I don't know what the deal is going to be, 2 for 1, 1 for 1, one only. You also have to make sure you have enough talent coming in to help. It's just a lot. It's a lot, and it's just not. We're not in a position, at least for us here at Lakers Fast Break, to really understand what's going on, because we don't know anything. We're not in it. We can assume, we can think based off of what we've already seen. And right now, from what I've seen, it's not looking good.
JSJ, giving you a second chance. Don't let me down again. I'm not gonna. Don't Depeche Mode me. That's all I'm saying. But once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening. Truly appreciate it. It is, of course. I'll see what I can do on that. I'll have to send out another email on that one. But it is, of course, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for watching and listening. Truly appreciate it. The stuff that goes behind the scenes here is more structured.
By the way, that everything
always
I just
entertaining.
Said, everything I just said was a whole lot of nothing.
Yes,
that's how bad it is, folks. I have no explanation. I really don't. I don't know what to tell you. I really do not know what to tell you. That was pathetic. Everything I said was useless. You got nothing out of it. I got nothing out of it. Gerald got nothing out of it. No one with any coherent thought or interpretation of any language got anything out of what I just said, because that's exactly what we are dealing with as a fan base.
Oscar, the only apprehension, I love Magic, one of my all-time favorite players. I'm looking right now at the 88 World Championship back-to-back t-shirt that I've got hanging up on the wall here. But man, the Guggenheims, I'm fine. And Magic can be part owner, what have you, but man, him being back in control, I don't know, Joe.
No, guy.
Please.
See what I'm saying? Guys.
Coach, GM,
guys.
It really hasn't worked out for Magic. As a entrepreneur, he has been fantastic. He has made himself much more money, Joe, than he ever did as a player. But
Magic is good at selling himself and making people feel good. Making people feel good.
Yeah,
I can go into more detail on this, but it's probably going to go towards a different area that people don't want to talk about too. So I'll just leave it at that. The Guggenheims obviously have been extremely successful since they've taken over the LA Dodgers. Absolutely successful.
Did they
and
win 14-1 last tonight or not?
They were up 14-2. Yes.
Okay, I
the last time I checked. Yes.
Yeah.
And there is first of right refusal. Oh, geez, I can't even talk. First of right refusal is for AEG. If the Lakers wanted to sell their team, I believe the deal is to sell it first to AEG if they can make it work. What the Lakers would sell it for, honestly, they could sell it for probably $10 billion.
That's what it's estimated at. Oh, actually, I think it's 8 to 9.
They're around 7 and change.
Okay, from Forbes.
Right.
But
now what's crazy about that number is they don't own the building. They don't own the land, and they don't own the stadium.
That's why we talked about New York and Golden State being more, which Alan couldn't believe that actually is the case as far as Forbes evaluations.
Yes, but if they had owned the building and the land, then they would be probably number one. So AEG has the first right of refusal should the Bus family want to sell the team. If they can't purchase the team, then I'm sure they can open it for bid. Having the Guggenheims take over would be a godsend based off the evidence from the Lakers the last decade. They've been more than a decade. They've been very, very successful. They put in the right people. They put in the right decision makers. Even though I think they've made a mistake keeping Dave Roberts as long as they have, but at least they've been competitive and they have coherent management, and they're getting players and managing the salaries as good as you can. I think things would have to be really, really bad in the next 5 years for that to probably be a consideration. I don't see it happening anytime soon. It would have to be something where we saw another era of a Ryan Kelly and Rob Sacre, Tariq Black type team, and they're just winning 17 games, and they're getting draft picks of guys like Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball, whom do nothing in terms of winning championships. That's where I think that would have to change or might change. But I would probably guess that they'd probably never sell the team.
So I ask you, my friend, and it's funny because much earlier today, the morning show, Run It Back, that had Shams Charania on there. I guess it's part of FanDuel TV, and he was on there, and he's talking about, my sources told me that JJ was the front runner the whole time, and that Dan Hurley was not the number one candidate to go and pursue from the start. So he's trying to basically cover his tracks at this point, and it's not really meshing well because, again, he looks like, along with the Lakers, guys like him have a lot of egg on their faces. But I want to put up something that Pale Fox said a little bit earlier, as far as among the many names that have been tossed around in both you and I in our faces in regards to coaching candidates. Who is the worst? We always talk about who is the best. Who is the worst name that you've heard thrown out there legitimately? Not like, of course, Phil Jackson, who cannot physically do it anymore. Not, someone that's just like out of left field. That's just crazy talk. Legitimate candidates that have been thrown your way. Which one is the one that you would say, I don't think I'd do that? I think that was a good question, Pale.
Yeah. Well,
because everybody always talks about the best of this bunch, which is uninspiring to say the least. Who is the worst?
Probably Sam Cassell.
Really?
Sam Cassell is a duplicate of Darvin Ham.
Okay.
He is a coach that's been an assistant for a long time, hasn't gotten a head coaching job, would likely come to LA. I don't know what system he would run. I don't know what he's good at. And the only reason why we know who he is because we watched him play for the Rockets and the Timberwolves, and he was a pretty good player, but that's irrelevant to the subject at hand. I don't you would be doing a Darvin Ham move again. So I'd say that's probably the worst one. JJ Redick probably comes in after that, simply for the fact that the guy has never coached, not even an assistant coach. His demeanor, his attitude, his philosophy on things is not in any way. He's very pretentious. He's got a pretentiousness about him. And that usually doesn't last long in the NBA. Unless he inherited a team with a superstar that would take his ribbing and his attitude, then everyone would have to fall in line. I don't see how that would be a successful hire.
Xbox.
And I'm not basing that off of anything. I don't believe anything on the internet. I believe nothing. When you talk about these hacks that are being fed stuff, the only thing they're saying is stuff that's being fed down their throats. That's why they're wrong so much, because they're getting fed manure. And the people that are feeding these guys manure don't care who they hurt. They'll still come back and eat more. Have you noticed the difference there?
Yep.
So whomever gave certain hacks that information that JJ Redick was the front runner, blah, 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 what do they got to lose just messing with these guys? Nothing, because they're going to be back ready to eat it again. So for me, you don't have any pride. You don't have any ethics to your own business. You are a prostitute to in your profession. No matter how disrespectful people are to you, no matter how much they use you, you're still going to come back and take it. So all in the name of trying to break a story a few minutes before everybody else, or because you need the job. You want to be the it people. And I highly recommend anyone who listens to these guys to stop listening to them. The only time you should put them as a priority on your Twitter or whatever is during free agency. So you can get the alerts, because they do bring that out first, it seems. So if you really want to find out 60 seconds before everyone else, there's some value there, I guess. But other than that, these guys are useless to us.
I just found it interesting about how he did a Rob Pelinka impersonation about when Woj, who was also for 2 weeks in the dark about what the Lakers' true plans were, finally got the heads up about Dan Hurley, and he put it out there how Shams hid essentially from the world for a few days, then kind of this morning brought himself back out the limelight, saying, since Dan Hurley is going to stay for $20 million less, or however many $1 million less in UConn, the number one choice all along was JJ Redick. Well, if he was the number one choice all along, Joe, why would you go for Dan Hurley in the first place?
Because he wasn't.
Yep. And
We bought
Eli,
into it. We bought into it for a few days,
Mhm.
and that's our fault. Let it be a lesson to all of you. Until it's inked, stop listening to these guys. They're hacks. They're tabloid reporters. They're not talented. They're not informed. The only reason why Woj had the information he had and came out with it is because he knew the family intimately. It wasn't a source. It was a close-knit communication. I guarantee you right now, if one of my best friends was a GM or someone attached to a person who was involved in some kind of business that I needed information for, you damn well better believe I'd know about it. They tell me everything. And as far as the Jay Wright noise, guys,
yeah,
it's clickbait.
yeah.
It's clickbait, and those people should be embarrassed.
The stealth candidate that
But
he
they're not.
is.
They're not embarrassed. They don't get embarrassed. They're just
No. They're just throwing. People are just throwing names. It's like a dartboard. They're just throwing names at a dartboard and seeing what sticks. Everyone. That's just they're throwing any random name that's out there, and it's.
You also have to understand, folks. There needs to be a culture change here. Let's look at it from a practical reason. If you're going to truly have a culture change, you can't bring back LeBron James. At this point, I don't think I'm ever going to really accept the fact that the Lakers are going to be able to get a leading coach as long as LeBron is here. LeBron is not a coach killer. He's just a coach non-doer. He will do what he wants. His management will do what he wants. He's been doing it for 21 years. He will continue to do things his way. You will not change his mind. Therefore, I don't know how you change the culture of the Lakers if you bring in a new coach without getting rid of LeBron James. Or at least saying that we're not going to extend you.
Eli, if the Suns pick Bronny at 22, God bless him. Absolutely.
22?
I would at 22. Yes, because they worked him out already. There was very few teams that
Who's picking him at 22?
Suns.
Oh.
Yeah. So the Suns were one of the teams that worked out.
Good.
Bronny.
I would be very happy for.
We would welcome that. We would probably, if we knew you or Joe and I might come to your door and just shake your hand. You realize, of course, though, that LeBron would never sign for the minimum, mind you.
No.
Because I know your reasoning saying that, oh yeah, they'll bring Bronny, they'll draft Bronny to bring LeBron over. LeBron would have to sign for the minimum because that's all you guys have in Phoenix.
No. Sorry, not going to happen.
Yeah, can't do that. Yeah, he can't do
it. It could happen, but it's not.
Would he leave up to potentially
I'll tell you what right now.
$58 million on the table?
Exactly. I will tell you what, man. It would be a massive boost if LeBron left.
And I'm not going to disagree with
because you can actually then not have to worry about signing D'Angelo. It won't be as important to sign him from a business standpoint. And then you can go and get some players to at least start transitioning to the new era of basketball. The problem is I don't know if that decision is going to be made before the coach is hired, because I think that would play a huge factor in that. Mark, I don't think Powell wants to coach, and I wouldn't want that for him.
But Pale, if LA is intent on keeping LeBron, getting someone like Adamant, who actually I've heard really good things about, bring him in. When was the last time a team brought on a LeBron coach team, a individual, a European coach? How did that work out?
They had the number one seed in the East, and he got fired.
Yeah, because LeBron didn't like him. Yeah. I would not do that to the poor man coming all the way over to this country just to, and for that. Yeah. Nah. It's, yeah. So
it's stuck
Brenton,
in the mud.
think you got that right. It is Le Circus.
It's stuck in the mud. Stuck in the mud. Redundancy at this point. Every show there's some redundancy that continues to be talked or delivered. How are we going to talk about something different? Well, how can we talk about something different here? How can we be positive when the information is wrong, when the candidates are not good, and when your organization that you're supporting is even worse? What is there to talk about? Are we going to talk about happy things? Let's talk about things that are actually going right for the Lakers. It reminds me.
Trying to think of what that is, but I don't know.
There's a hilarious movie called Necessary Roughness. It's an early '90s movie where
I know it.
God rest his soul too. I feel like every person I talk to these days has passed away. Is it Frank Loggia? No, not Frank. Robert
Loggia.
Jeez, he played Frank in Scarface. Sorry, Robert Loggia is making a speech at halftime, and they're getting killed. And he's like, "Well, let's talk about what's working for us." And then he starts going, "I'll tell you what's not going. I can't do this tie. I can't do this hat." Oh man, yeah, it's so hard. I guess you could say Austin Reeves is maybe going to improve next year, another year, right? Maybe
well, he won't have to play through an entire summer.
Rui could be better next year.
I think FIBA wore him down a little bit.
Yes, and what else can I say? The Lakers are already going to be playing a little catch up because you're going to have AD and LeBron playing this summer, which means they're going to be even more tired going into this season.
Great.
Yeah. Hey, Alan, why don't you when your Niners start winning Super Bowls again in the next 30 years, maybe come back and talk some smack. You guys are the Buffalo Bills of this era.
Pale Fox says, "How can the Rambus run the Lakers like a shadow government? Why doesn't Silver step in to end the circus?"
Are we positive that Rambus runs anything?
Yeah, we don't even know what goes on behind the scenes at El Segundo. I don't even think people in El Segundo, in that UCLA Health Center, know what's going on themselves. And to think, Silver stepping in, if Adam Silver has to step in every time a organization goes sideways, I mean, we're still, as much as we try, Joe and I clown on them, they're still a 7th place team in the Western Conference. There are still, 12 or 13 teams that were statistically worse than the Los Angeles Lakers, if I'm not mistaken, or probably around that, probably a little bit more, but you get my drift. I mean, Charlotte would be the first place I would go to if I was Adam Silver. I needed to go ahead and save a franchise because there are a lot worse franchises off right now. Although it's only because of LeBron and AD, Joe. If we did not have LeBron and AD, then yeah, it would not be looking so pretty. But again, I've talked about it. Sean has talked about it. Stone has talked about it. I know you don't want to go back to the Robert Sacre days because you didn't like the way the team was built. I can only tell you that the best case scenario out of a rebuild is what you're seeing in OKC, where, remember, in the bubble, they were actually a very good team. They were a playoff team. They had Chris Paul, they had Schroeder, they had early SGA, but they decided to go ahead and ditch all that, take their lumps, acquire an absolute ton of assets, and look at them now as the number 1 team in the Western Conference. Although, of course, they still got some things to do and places to go. But That is obviously the best case scenario for a rebuild. And I can see your lack of confidence in the Lakers doing just that. So I can get where you're coming at when you and I argue about whether or not you just trade everything away and start from scratch.
Yeah, James Borrego his name is out there. Kenny Atkinson's name is out there.
I
Chris
put
Quinn
I
is
put
still out
Golden
there.
State. I put Golden State in the same boat as us, Jamal.
I think Golden State at least has a better coach there,
But their
and
talent is aged.
their talent is aged.
Their options are few because they're still, even if they take off Chris Paul's contract, which they will, it's still, they're still like the Lakers. They're getting up there. They're still up there in the salary cap.
The loyalty to the dynasty trio has held back the Warriors. Re-signing Draymond Green was a massive mistake. I'm going to be curious to see what kind of deal they figure out for Clay, or if they don't. And the Warriors have Steph Curry, who's 6 years less in years in the NBA, and Steve Kerr is a Hall of Fame coach one day. There is more positive in San Francisco than there is in LA. Plus, I think ownership there is a little bit, they're much smarter in how to conduct business, whereas the Lakers management and ownership is not. They're way ahead of us in terms of a resurgence, a quicker resurgence. The Lakers would have to likely fire Rob Pelinka and start with a new general manager or VP of operations so that he can find their coach. That's always the case, right? Are you going to hire a coach right now and then fire Rob in 2 years? Is that GM now going to run with whatever coach is here? Likely
Usually that's
not.
not the case.
That's
Yeah.
not usually the case. It's the pieces are not working.
In
What
Detroit, they have to because
what you
Monty
could have,
Williams
and a
is
big
so
part of
expensive.
the Dan Hurley thing is maybe Dan Hurley signs with the Lakers if he's given final cut decisions. And then you promise him an extension in a couple of years that makes sense. There may have been incentives tied to this that we don't know about. And if there weren't, that would have been a big part of the sell job. Hey, look, Dan, we know this is your first time in here. We're going to give you a what we think is a very, very fair offer, but we will put in some incentives here so that it makes it worth your while in a couple of years, so we know that this is something you want to do. And to make sure that we're willing to go all in here, we're going to give you final cut decisions. Who we want to draft, what kind of player do you want to bring in here? And even if LeBron wasn't a part of the process. So I would say to Dan, if you end up yelling at LeBron in practice and he starts getting butthurt and starts sending cryptic messages to all his minions out there, we're going to take your side.
Because that's one of the things that Shams did say later on in the day, is that LeBron is unequivocally not part of this process.
Jamal, it's not about not getting Dan Hurley. He might have not worked. As a matter of fact, history says it wasn't going to work. It's in the manner it was dealt with. The Lakers were used and abused again. They look like clowns. They were used not even by professional coaches or professional players. This time, a college coach abused them. It's an embarrassing process. That's the problem with this. something got leaked. Something like this got leaked. They go out and send him to LA. And then within a matter of hours, the next footage of him is at a concert. I mean, if that didn't tell you that guy couldn't care less about your job, I don't know what else could have. But we were sitting here being positive, right? Oh, well, maybe he's just letting off some steam. Maybe he had scheduled that concert before he knew he was going to get an interview in LA. Come on, people. We're going to tell ourselves a lot of things because we're Laker fans. But the reality is the Lakers are a joke, and they're run by jokesters who aren't funny.
But one fly, it goes back to what we said earlier. If JJ has been this number one option all along, because obviously you clearly, when you say that statement, one fly, you're reading into what Shams is saying, hook, line, and sinker. Hurley reached out to abuse us.
I have no.
The Lakers clearly did not like him enough.
If that guy disappeared, he's a hack.
Yeah.
He's a hack. He knows nothing. And he will do nothing. I highly recommend you all stop listening to these people, stop following these people. They know nothing. They have no respect for themselves. They get fed garbage, and they keep coming back for more. I don't pay attention to any of this. I try to come on here and discuss what ifs because that's what we do. And we do sometimes go on the side of, okay, well, it looks like this and it looks like that, when really we don't know. I don't know. Yeah, looks like JJ Redick is going to get hired 5 days ago. I said it. But what is it based off of? It's based off the noise that we hear and we're talking about it. Yeah, it looks like that's what it's going to be. But I didn't know.
Well, even if he did, Joe, just the fact that he has been called again this morning and this afternoon, and even by One Fly right now, with all due respect, One Fly, the number one candidate. When, Joe, you're looking at candidates for your company.
The question?
Well, let me just say this. Let me just say this. Let's say you're looking for candidates, and there's one individual that some others in your organization are saying, "Oh, he is the number one candidate," but yet you look and continue to look. Is that guy really the number one candidate when you're looking at other individuals for the position? When you just didn't say, you know what, you're the guy. Let's do it. Let's go. Doesn't sound like a number one candidate to me, Joe.
If you're a number one candidate, then why isn't he getting an offer?
Yeah.
What does one number one candidate mean? What has he even been interviewed? By the way?
Yeah, he has been. He has interviewed. He's met with them, I think, twice.
Okay.
Borrego has met with them twice. I think Cassell once, if I'm not mistaken.
So they interviewed Cassell. They interviewed
just off the top of
allegedly. I don't know. Borrego, did they interview James Borrego?
Yes, I think twice.
Okay.
Yes.
So
was Cleveland.
Okay. Did they interview Chris Quinn?
They might have interviewed. I believe they interviewed Chris Quinn as well. And Sam Cassell. Atkinson, I'm not sure his name's been on this list, but he may or may not.
We got a good amount of people that they've allegedly spoken with, and yet we're still waiting. That means they don't want those guys. So what are they waiting for? Are they waiting for Dean Smith to come out from the grave? Because I think he'd still even say no.
Exactly. But just the number one tag, please just take the number one tag off of JJ, because when you go after someone else, he's not the number one.
There is a fractured franchise here, folks. I actually think that even if they brought in the right coach, I don't know if he'll do well, because there's too much broken glass in this team, from upper management to the fact that your number one player is a continuous hindrance to progress, both on the court and off the court. His mind is in other things off the court that's distracting to the actual team. We saw what happened last week. He couldn't stop climaxing over a former player. And in doing that, he hexed him into playing two of the worst games he's played this year. I know a lot of that had to do with Drew Holiday too, but the point is, this is what he does. He is a self-absorbed, has to be at the center of attention type guy. How are you going to bring a coach in here that's going to change the culture if you have that guy constantly doing what he does? So, what's the solution at this point? I had no idea what I was going to talk about tonight because we've talked about it over and over again. But I'm going to drop the hammer now. I honestly think at this point, that the Lakers should tell LeBron James that we're not going to re-sign you. We're going to build around Anthony Davis, and we're going to get a coach that's going to help Anthony Davis flourish. You're going to play out your last year, should you pick up your option, and we're done after next year. Now, if Anthony Davis comes out because Clutch is programming him and he says, I want to get traded, then you can go ahead and start looking into that as well. But I would like to think that Anthony Davis is going to stay and try to stay on this thing and see if he can be a part of something else here after LeBron's gone.
And that will be something I'm not going to put it out of the realm of possibility, Joe, because the fact of what's gone on with this coaching circus. I think
you're not getting the coach, right? You're not getting the right coach, it looks like, either way. So you might as well look.
And LeBron's in a good position, Joe. You got to admit, he's not doing anything.
You would almost,
he's like wiping his hands of the situation, just saying, it's on you, Lakers.
And the thing is with LeBron, this is the irony in all this, is we actually did need LeBron to be on board a little bit if we were to compete with this team, right? So it's just not, it's become a headache, like Xbox is saying. It's become a headache, directly, indirectly. You're probably going to have to fire this coach next year, whoever it is, because they're probably not going to do well. It's not good. It's just not a good situation, and I don't think it's going to get better until you get rid of everyone except the young guys. And I still consider Anthony Davis part of the young crew. You got to get rid of Rob. If you want to keep the Kurt Rambis and his wife there for moral support, I don't care about that. Whatever, cool. But you need a top-notch organizer. You need a top-notch young general manager who has ideas and has a focus on building a team. We're not getting that this summer. So therefore, this next year is going to be another dead season because you're not going to get the right coach. Now what? You have LeBron playing another year. AD's playing another year. Are we going to expect them to play 76 and 71 games throughout next year, especially after them coming off of a likely gold medal winning summer? Every end of this is behind the eight ball. Everything. And you cannot miss on either one. And a lot of it is luck. How the draft materializes. Are you going to get that impact player at 17 if you keep the pick? Are you going to get lucky and get somebody at 55 that'll make an impact? Are you going to get a player that doesn't die the first 15 weeks of the season for the exception during the summer? You just keep asking more and more questions as you go. The depression is there, folks. A lot of people have probably signed off that first came in saying, oh, I can't listen to this. I got to hear happy thoughts. I'm going to go somewhere else and hear happy thoughts. Stick the happy thoughts up your rear end. This is the real world, baby. You're not going to get anything solved by thinking about happy thoughts when things suck. You have to solve the problem, then have happy thoughts. See?
Yep, that's true. But once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this. We truly appreciate it. We're back and forth talking about what's going on with the coaching search and that soap opera continuing because it's just absolutely mind-numbing at this point. But I talked about how bad the Lakers are, Joe, as an organization being run right now. It's still, as long as you have AD and LeBron there, they're like the Band-Aid. The wound is still bleeding, Joe, but the Band-Aid of AD and LeBron still keeps it like, you keeps a pulse for you. But the problem is if you take that off, you're going to start from scratch. You're bleeding out. And then you truly become, and we truly see what this organization is all about, because right now it has a lot of holes below the surface. It has a lot of issues, a lot of problems. And I think at some point you may just want to say, you know what? I think AD, LeBron, maybe it's for the best you find greener pastures somewhere else, because we can actually see just how bad, or at least the world can see what we see as far as everything else in Lakers land really, really that bad and totally dependent on two individuals in El Segundo.
I don't, there isn't going to be a coach that they hire this summer that's going to make a difference.
Not even the potential legendary coach in waiting, JJ Redick, according to Laker Tom? The podcaster that he is?
No. JJ Redick is the last guy you would need to run your organization, your coaching staff. What would he do? Let's discuss that. What has JJ Redick shown? We had Luke Walton as our coach, and Luke Walton was a basketball IQ guy while he played, correct?
Yes.
Which was an interesting observation of his skill set. Phil loved him, right? I remember Luke Walton with Kobe in game 2 of the 2004 finals played a huge part in winning that one game in that series because of how smart he was, how smart at dissecting the offense, the defense, and those things. However, could he communicate with his players and have them at least, because usually when you have as bad of a team as Luke had, you usually can at least teach the young guys that are coming in that they're more apt to listen instead of having big egos. You never really saw any of that either. You never saw some kind of improvement with that. Who from this bunch, who, especially someone like JJ Redick, who's going to listen to these guys? Do you see anybody that could command?
Borrego is a retread coach. Atkinson is a retread coach. They might be good coaches for other teams, but if you're going to still have LeBron and AD around, there has to be a certain type of coach that gives them, or that they give respect to, Joe, because if they don't give respect to whatever coach they have, like in this case Ham, because you saw how I guess I don't want to say nasty, but snarky AD got in those final days in regards to what Ham was doing. He got snarky on those press conferences, and of course LeBron is always his passive aggressive self. It's the team still millows around those two individuals, for better or for worse. And whatever coach you have has got to keep the respect of those two individuals. Otherwise, it's the lost cause.
I will say that there will be an improvement in the coaching versus Darvin Ham. Darvin Ham is the worst Laker coach I've ever seen. Not only from his X's and O's, his ability to motivate, but also his whole philosophy and demeanor is trash, was trash. The things he said were abhorrent and absolutely pathetic. He coached 1 year too long, to be honest with you. And if you want to give him credit for leading the Lakers to the Western Conference Finals last year, congratulations. You have plenty of coaches out there that were terrible. You had Dwayne Casey won Coach of the Year and got fired 2 weeks later. Which,
amazing, isn't it?
It points out again to the whole voting process of this league and how pathetic those guys are. It's just everything is trash. Everything is garbage. The media is garbage. The voting process is garbage. Most of these coaches are garbage. Not as people. I'm talking about the coaching part, folks. Please understand the difference. They're not good. They're not good at communicating. They blame AAU ball. They blame college. They blame divas. They blame that. It's always someone blaming somebody else. And
Xbox. I think in the wake of not having Kurt Affair here, Xbox is trying his best to cheer the crowd up.
That's good. And we can agree that there will be a better coach than what we had. That's a positive. The Lakers could get someone of value at 17. That there's some positiveness there. They could sign D'Lo, which I don't know if that's considered positive. For me, from a business standpoint, I think that would be a positive signing because now you don't lose out on that money. You don't sign D'Angelo Russell. You just wasted another player for nothing because you cannot use the money you don't pay D'Lo on someone else. That's not how the current CBA is structured. That will only add to the absolute ineptness of this team.
I think definitely we're now going into reaching territory because on this chat, the Best Lakers chat room that's out there, the Lakers Fast Break, we've gone into Australian coaches, European coaches, and Avery Johnson.
Well, I was reading articles where someone had put Becky Hammon as the number one option, and then the other one was what was the other one?
Oh yeah, Becky Hammon. She was mentioned the other night on.
Sandy Rondello, the head coach for the Liberty.
Becky Hammon's too smart for take this job right now. There's too much crap along with it right now.
Well,
I say she's a damn good coach, but she's not going to take this gig.
Yeah, well, she would take this gig. Trust me.
Okay, 6 years, $70 million. She would probably
take the gig.
She'll take the
for
gig,
sure.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to have.
I'll change my stance on that. 6 years, $70 million. Yeah, that's what she would say. That's the first word she would. So, do I get 6 years, $70 million too? I got back-to-back championships, just like Dan Hurley. And I know you would say, Joe. And I don't want to go with that argument again. That's classic stuff that we did a long time ago. So we'll just put that back. But yeah. The candidates are all over the place. It's a dartboard right now. In fact, I may think in Rob Pelinka's office, he may just have a dartboard and just me be throwing darts at this point in time because it's just absolutely been ridiculous. And I talked about this, when the first few days started happening and the Lakers were just all over the place on coaches. And did the Lakers have an actual plan in place? Are they just shooting off the hip, doing this on the fly? Just seemingly looks like they're doing this off the hip. And that's not a good way to run the organization.
I'm speechless. I think we need another subject.
If we talk about the draft, you say that they're not going to keep the 17th pick. You've been insistent on the fact that they're not going to keep the 17th pick. In a bad draft, mind you.
I'm pretty sure they won't if they're trying to win with LeBron.
Well, they supposedly were trying to win with LeBron last year, and look who they drafted then.
Hey, he worked hard.
What? Sitting on the bench?
I meant when they were drafting him, they were talking about how hard of a worker he is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. Well, like you said, he was the MVP of training camp for that first week they had training camp, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, how that
He was
worked
the
out.
MVP. I never heard that.
Well, and AD had said he was the MVP of their training camp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
A lot of fantasy people in our circles, aren't there? Why was he the MVP? Did they ever
I don't know.
explain why?
We never really saw why. So
I'm not going to go on and insult Anthony Davis for the next 30 minutes either. Now I'm tired of.
he was trying to be a team player.
I trying to be a team player. Okay. That's not going to help us, guys. You don't help the process so you can be a good teammate.
But you say they're in the position to win now if they bring back LeBron, and they didn't do that last year with a project like JHS and a project before that with Max Christie, who is yet to fully realize his potential in your eyes, and still Stone's eyes, still not considered by you guys an NBA player. So you're saying that Rob's going to make a choice now that will hopefully solidify.
Is there a coach that's available right now that's a candidate that can enhance the young players like Rui, like Austin Reeves, maybe Max Christie if he comes back on a 1-year contract? Can he revitalize JHS? Can he motivate D'Angelo Russell? Kenny Atkinson did it. Wasn't he the coach when D'Lo was in Brooklyn?
Kenny Atkinson, yes, but once they started achieving success and they brought in Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving.
So what Brooklyn did was they pulled a LA Laker move. They had something building.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by LA Laker movement, they valued the star over building something organically when it was working too. The Lakers have made their bones with stars, and they won with the stars. But where they've failed recently is when Shaq wanted to get traded, the Lakers sat for 3 years, actually 3.5 years without a plan. When Kobe got hurt and tore his Achilles, the Lakers didn't have a plan after that. They just let things ride, right? Until they rode it until it died. And it looks like they're letting this ride until it dies.
Worked for Bad Boys this past weekend.
What?
Bad Boys, Ride or Die.
Was it good?
Well, got generally favorable reviews and did over $100 million. No, but it did over $100 million at the box office this past weekend.
Well, it helps when you don't have any other movies out.
Or the ones that are not hitting. Virtually every movie in May has not done well. So
I don't even know what's been out in May.
But stories like If, Mad Max Furiosa, The Fall Guy.
If? I don't know what the hell If is.
Planet of the Apes, Imaginary Friend with Ryan Reynolds.
Okay. How many Planet of the Apes movies have they made in the last 10 years? 80? How many Godzilla movies are they going to make?
Godzilla -1 on Netflix. That's a movie you got to see. Mr. Z says there's also Adrian Griffin. That didn't go well in Milwaukee, though, Mr. Z.
The team that hired Adrian Griffin and fired him just hired Darvin Ham. You really want to do what they did? This is the evening of silence, folks. This is the evening of much sighing. We're drained. We've drained ourselves of all the discussions, all of the continuous lack of skill sets that this team has, all the tone deafness, and making it worse is we have to possibly watch the Celtics win a championship above it all. I would have been probably a little bit okay with the situation if we didn't have to deal with that. We're going to need Luka and Kyrie to go into supersonic mode in the next 4 games for us to not really, really have the worst season in a long time in LA.
Let's hope so.
Because they're going to need 2 more championships to get past the Celtics, at least after this year, should the Celtics win.
And with Rob piloting the ship, I don't see that happening.
There is no future as long as that man is in charge.
I think we need to go back to.
And I want you all to understand, Clutch is not going to save you. Clutch may have brought AD to LA. They may have helped convince LeBron to come to LA. But this is it 5 seasons ago, folks. They haven't done squat since. This is what have you done for us lately? At least a few years after titles. It's been a while. And it's not only that, it's how they're losing. They're losing because they're not able to do the things that need to be done. And they're not doing anything about it. They're just hoping and wishing. No, Michael Cooper is not the guy.
Didn't he get fired from the Sparks?
He's guys like Michael Cooper and Derek Fisher haven't been able to communicate either, guys. They don't have any set philosophy. They don't have any way of adjusting when you need to. They're not good coaches, at least in the NBA.
We're just reaching at the bottom of the barrel, my friend. It's just the names are being thrown out there.
The intriguing part about Dan Hurley was the fact that is this guy going to be given the full reins? You're going to bring a gentleman who is fiery, who has an ability to dominate a room. If you had said this guy has a lot of Pat Riley in him, I would say, yeah, that makes sense. So you bring in the guy that actually was like a Pat Riley, and you don't wow him to stay.
BD, Coach K is 77. I don't think he wants the stress anymore in his life.
Coach K didn't want to coach this team when he
20 years ago. RU says, I'm mad at the front office. They make the Lakers look weak. We are a first-class organization and coaches should want to coach us. But Rob destroyed our reputation. We aren't the Lakers of old because of him. But he is.
He's a part of it, but I put the full blame always on the ultimate decision maker. Jeannie Buss is the owner of this team. Therefore, it's on her.
Actually, one fly, Dwayne Casey. Yeah, we have mentioned.
Not a fan.
Yesterday?
Never been a fan of Dwayne Casey.
Was it yesterday or I think was it one of the last 2 shows we mentioned Dwayne Casey, like real quick.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of Dwayne Casey.
Well, if we tank, Mr. Z, we could get Cooper Flag next year.
No, we can't. Unless it's protected. Is that switch protected?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. No, it is. I don't think it is protected. It's unprotected. You're right.
We don't have a draft pick next year, folks.
We can't tank. We can't even tank.
That's another notch on the 8 ball.
We can't even tank. You would think they would at least done 1 to 4 protected, but no. It's outright theirs.
They could trade the pick for a pick next year, but how often does that happen in the NBA?
If it's a high pick, it's a good draft next year.
Is it?
Yes. It is been called the anti-2024 draft. What does that tell you?
Magic warned us of backstabbing, but Magic didn't necessarily help matters before he left.
Wasn't the best talent evaluator and decision maker there.
No.
One fly.
And Magic is God bless him. I love him, but he's always trying to. He lives in that positivity realm, which is it works for him. It's who he is. He'll say things are great when they're not. More often than not.
I mean, Ivica Zubats. I'd say more.
It's not just that. It's
well, there were several decisions,
saying things like, "I'm going to go train Ben Simmons." I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This is before Ben Simmons sucked and quit. So I was like, what? What is he doing? And then he got fined, right?
Yeah.
For tampering.
Yep.
Yeah, that's you're supposed to be a smart businessman. Yeah, you should know that. I know that. I've never been a GM in the NBA. 90% of the people out there know this. I don't know. I'm trying so hard to just figure out a way to transition from this because I can't. It's either brutal or insulting. I don't want to continue to say the same things over and over again. I've been sitting here thinking about solutions, and then we just found out that again it dawned on us again that they can't even tank if they wanted to.
Yeah, you're right, Eric. It was for Giannis. Magic was fined for tampering with Giannis' tentacle ball.
He got in trouble for the Ben Simmons thing too. I don't know if he got fined or what, but I know that I remember the article. He said, "I'm going to, train Ben Simmons."
He complimented Giannis and, said he was going to be a great player. He's going to be like an MVP, a champion. He's going to put Milwaukee on the map, and he's going to bring them a championship one day. And that's tampering. So yes, that was what he got fined for. Oh, yeah, with his ball handling skills and his passability, he plays above the rim. I could never do that. But in his understanding of the game, his basketball IQ, his creativity of shots for his teammates, that's where we have the same thing. Can bring it down, make a pass, make a play. I'm just happy he's starting in the All-Star game because he deserves that. And he's going to be like an MVP, a champion. This dude is going to put Milwaukee on the map, and I think he's going to bring them a championship one day. And that's what got him $500,000. Or was it 50? $50,000. They got fined $500,000 for tampering with Paul George.
Yeah, I heard that too, Mr. Z. What would it take to get the third pick, and why would you trade up to get the third pick if you're a team? Let's say you're the Lakers at 17. Let's talk about hypotheticals that we can have some fun with here. Let's say the Lakers want to get the third pick from Houston. What would they have to give up?
Austin.
So they're going to have to give up actual talent on the team.
Yeah.
And who would they get at 3?
Donovan Clingan, if he's available.
Who else?
Let me see who's there in my opinion. Ron Holland. I think I'm with Stone on Ron Holland.
So you get Ron Holland at 3. I think you go Ron Holland at 3, but that's going to take a while to materialize, though.
Ron Holland is all over the map. I've seen him as high as 2 in recent weeks, and I've seen him as low as 12, 13, all over the place because of supposed rumors about his interview. Here we go again, Joe, with interviews and other things outside that supposedly are bringing his draft stock down. Here we go with another Cam Whitmore situation all over again.
It's all manipulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do that kind of stuff to trick the teams in front of certain teams to hopefully get that player. It's all gamesmanship in some respect. But what was the Lakers? But you're telling me the Lakers giving up Austin Reeves and the 17th pick for number 3. You think that's enough?
I'm just. You're asking me what it might take, and I'm just saying to at least get to them not to hang up on you, Joe, and then you could go from there.
Would the Oklahoma City Thunder take advantage of this draft by giving up some of their draft picks to get another stud like Clingan?
because they do need beef.
Or Rod Holland.
I think they're going after Markkanen. That's my personal deal. That's my personal thoughts on that. By the way, Nicola, remember, Mr. Z has a knee injury, has a torn ACL. And then that would not be good for the Lakers to start off with. And Stephen Castle's defensive oriented. Manufacturing points and creating points and shooting are issues for him at this time.
Markkanen going to Oklahoma City. You think that's the last piece?
I don't think it's the last piece. I still think they need to do stuff around the fringes, but it's a good piece for them. That's where they really got hurt, is having some size outside of Chet Holmgren. And Chet Holmgren he's just not physically strong enough.
Will Brandon Ingram be a part of a draft day trade?
Possibility. Depends.
Where would he go? Where would be likely to go? I'm hearing Atlanta. I'm hearing Orlando.
For Trey?
Probably Murray. Could be Trey. Does that work? Does that matter? Not a lot of talk about Trey Young. Things are kind of died down on that. Maybe they'll start to pick up at the draft.
I see that it's sort of a lateral thing, though, with Ingram and Murray. Because then you got to do something with CJ. Because CJ is getting along in the tooth as well.
Mm-hmm. What's he going to want to do? Is he going to want to go to a contender?
He's got a nice fat contract, though. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. He's overpaid.
Is he still the player?
I believe so, yes. But Mr. Z, say the three letters with me. ACL. I also want to put that out there that he has a torn ACL. If you're playing with LeBron now, if you need a player that's ready now to go, Joe, and you want to move up in the draft, despite whatever feelings you might have for Nikola down the line, we're talking about as far as Nikola Topic, he's not going to be ready to play right away. He's going to take a while before he gets in there. Now, I know you get that, Mr. Z, but I'm just saying, if you have a LeBron, if you're committed to bringing LeBron back, your window is short. So you need players to fit alongside that.
The Lakers needed a culture-changing coach who would demand respect, and the players would respect him. They also needed to get a player at 17 that could play immediately and be a part of the rotation. They also would need to sign D'Angelo Russell so that they don't lose out on that dead money that would be dead if they didn't re-sign him. They also would need to get an impact player with the MLE.
Well, look what Bag of Dragons done, Joe, from Twitch. He's got Russell, Reeves, and Hashimura for Van Vliet, Holiday, and the third pick.
Why the hell would Houston do that?
No, he was just like, oh, so you would think that Houston says no. Would the Lakers say
no? No. I'd do that deal.
Okay.
But Houston would be like, yeah. It's a sad one, guys. It's a sad one. There's too many scenarios here. You have to have impact players immediately for this to make sense. You also have to have a coach that can motivate his team to.
I say it's a good try, though, BD.
To motivate his. Yeah, by the way, that was a great question. Really nice out of the box original option. Thank you, Dragon. Thank you. You saved us a little bit on this one because I'm dying here. I'm dying on the vine. But the Lakers have to have a system that can preserve the vets, at the same time put the younger guys in the best positions possible to get rebounds and to do what they do best. It's a lot to ask. And Anthony Davis needs a coach that can enhance his offensive skill set, which means there's going to need to be some kind of motion offense that allows him to get the ball in the positions where he can be as successful as possible. Continuous alley-oops, continuous distribution in spots where he can turn around and make the shots, make high percentage shots. I have yet to see that. I have yet to see a coach push him to do that.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
hard.
I know Ben,
It's hard. It's hard too, because what do we see with a LeBron James team? Top of the key, LeBron dribbling. That's the offense. And it's a good one when he gets to the basket. It's the most safe play in basketball next to Shaq in his prime. Correct?
yes.
LeBron going to the basket the last 24 years. There is nothing other than Shaq under the rim. There is no for sure point than LeBron going to the basket. 100%. So how is AD's offense going to flourish in an offense like that? It won't. There would need to be a culture change. There would need to be something where this coach would take advantage of the best two-way player on the team. And it also would help LeBron managed. You can manage LeBron's time on the court in an 82-game season, especially after what's going to happen after the Olympics. These guys are already going to be playing basketball before they have to start playing basketball.
It's funny because people are forgetting, and Xbox, as a fellow Australian, Ben Simmons' name could be popping up all over in trade rumors, Joe, not because the player, but because he's got a $40 million expiring contract this upcoming season. What are the odds that he miraculously becomes healthy this season? I'm not saying plays well. I'm just saying miraculously starts playing games this season. If it's the final one on this contract.
I wouldn't put it past him.
Just saying.
But I'm NBA management should be very, very attentive to the fact that this guy has essentially made all this money and has quit the last 4 seasons. And that's the kind of player he was. That's the kind of player he's always been. He's a quitter. He's a sissy. He has no love for the game. He's an embarrassment. He needs to be ridiculed daily for that. Anyone who has done what he's done should be ridiculed. Those are the players that you need to go after. Just need to explain it more. Even LeBron, when he says something dumb, there's this fight between the people who support him and don't. Look, you say something dumb, everyone should be able to recognize that. It's not that hard. I'm just, like what are we really talking about here? This is not a media versus player thing. This is not being unreasonable. This is why guaranteed contracts are a head scratcher sometimes, because of guys like this. And this debilitates teams. This destroys teams when things like this happen. You can't drop this guy like in the NFL because it's a non-guaranteed contract. You're stuck with this guy who quit, who made a mockery of your league. And not only that, sued or came back with lawyers to get money that wasn't for not playing. I think that was the hilarious part too. He got paid for not playing, and he actually won that debate, if you will.
It's so funny because in the annals of bad contracts, that is up there. I remember the first one I really remember that people were talking out loud of being bad was Jim McIlvaine, if you remember, Joe. Jim McIlvaine, I think he played, I don't know, on a finals team, or he played really well for like half a season and got a nice big fat contract, I think from Washington, if I remember correctly. And yeah, it was, he never came in even close to living up to that contract. And it was funny because ever since then, you see some of these players who have these like great half seasons or full seasons. D'Angelo Russell now comes to mind. Now will sign a pretty good contract, a really good contract in some cases this off season, and in some cases will not be able to live up to it. And I think Ben Simmons is probably now thought of in the modern era as probably one of the worst contracts ever signed.
The Jim McIlvaine contract actually was with Seattle.
With Seattle? Okay, my bad.
What was worse than the contract was what it did to Sean Kemp. Sean Kemp was at that time, I think, a 4-time All-Star. He was one of the, you could say, one of the 5 poster boys of the NBA. Sean Kemp was a better version of Dominique Wilkins of the 90s, and no one would argue against it. Everyone loved Sean Kemp, and he was good. That guy hit his free throws, he could jump out the building, he had a good jump shot, he was tight with Gary Payton, and it just goes to show you how bad management and ownership can be. You go and sign Jim McIlvaine because you need a center, I get it, but you have to take care of the people that have made you relevant.
Yeah, when he did well, it was with Seattle, that one run, and then he signed, I believe, with New Jersey.
It's mind-boggling to me how, and maybe it was a personal thing. I know that sometimes plays a factor in things. Maybe their values were different than Sean's. Sean had a eccentric off the court lifestyle. I think he had 8, 9 kids, and that was maybe something that they didn't want to be around. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff up in the air.
Oh no, it was the Sonics. You're right. It was the Sonics, Pale-Hawks. Yeah, it was the Sonics. He had played well for Washington, and then signed a 7-year, $33.6 million.
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way: if the Sonics don't botch that setup, and they sign Sean Kemp to a contract that he wanted to, maybe they're the team that wins in 1999. I don't think anybody beats the Bulls in 97 and 98, but maybe in 99, maybe they beat San Antonio. Maybe they get over it, the hump there. Who knows? There was that one year where it was a little bit open, because as soon as the Bulls' reign ended, you had that little gap, that little 50-game season, lockout season, and then, of course, Shaq and Kobe took over after that.
Jim McIlvaine never averaged over 4 points in an NBA season. Do you see, but yet got offered that huge contract from Seattle and caused the uproar that you're talking about, it was Sean Kemp and all that. Do you see at some point Bronny James following that same path, not ever achieving any level of success, but yet getting a second contract, really attractive second contract, just because of who he is?
A second contract?
Yeah, like for initial rookie contract, then going to second one.
No, I don't even know if he's going to get a first contract.
Well, he'll be drafted, my friend. He'll be. That's what this team is demanding. Much to our chagrin. Will it be the Lakers? I don't know. I'm hoping
anyone
not.
Who drafts LeBron James Jr. they should have their team moved to Vegas or Seattle, and they should never own a team. You're a joke, and you're pathetic, and you should never run a basketball team.
Who's the
No, Bronny is not Gary Payton number 2. Absolutely not.
Rashard Lewis, are you talking about, Darren? Because Steven Scheffler was already gone out of the league by then.
Rashard Lewis was...
He was talking about the other forward in Seattle outside of Sean
Rashard Lewis.
This was Rashard Lewis.
That left Schrempf was there. Ray Allen was there at the beginning.
Schrempf was good. Schrempf was underrated, I think.
I shouldn't say at the beginning, at the second stint after Milwaukee, before he got traded to Boston.
Corbina says he sees Bronny like Gary Payton II. No, Gary Payton. No. Gary Payton worked hard. Remember when he was being forced to play point guard and he was bouncing around from team to team, going to the G League? He actually played for a little while for the Lakers. And when they finally realized he was better as an off guard or as a do-it-all guy outside of being a point guard who could just defend and occasionally hit the 3 for you, he became a good role player and obviously key to Golden State's championship the year they won. So, yeah, I don't see Bronny ever materializing into that.
Gary Payton Jr. had Gary Payton Sr. as a dad. I can only imagine what kind of verbal abuse that kid took. And he ate it up and carved himself a NBA career. I don't see a pansy like LeBron James doing that kind of stuff to his kid. He's babied him. He's made him entitled. And he's given him false hope that he has a career in the NBA. And it's an embarrassment because Mr. LeBron James wants to have the father-son thing at the expense of the Lakers too.
And Eli, if Suns want to draft him, I'll say it again, by all means. And Joe and I may come out to wherever you are just to shake your hand and say good luck. Gonna need it.
Still want your views on young Olivia Newton-John.
Physical. Let's get physical.
Are you talking about that video specifically?
Are you talking about 19?
Or are you talking about Greece?
Are you talking about what year, what time frame? Late 70s? Were you talking earlier?
She was
than
still
that?
beautiful. God rest her soul. Jeez, I'm saying this to everybody. She was still beautiful, even before she passed away. She was just sometimes a beautiful woman, not an exotically beautiful woman, can be exotically beautiful just because of her personality. And Olivia Newton-John is one of those. Like Margot Robbie is gorgeous, but her personality makes her just ridiculously out of your mind hot. Sometimes the personality adds to the beauty. And she had it. Olivia Newton-John had it.
Greece, yes, the movie Greece, 1977 Greece.
Rashard Lewis is who I wanted Kyle Kuzma to be. I said that a few in the last few years he was with the Lakers. I said, if I was a coach, I would have Kyle sit and watch Rashard Lewis tapes for a year and say, mimic your game off of Rashard Lewis's game. And just, yeah, they're almost identical body types. And you'd have Kuzma would be a perfect third guy on the Lakers, but we never got a chance to see that.
Nope, because he was traded away along with KCP,
and it's our fault. It's our fault for
Russell Westbrook
not appreciating KCP, not appreciating Kuzma. KCP might have been streaky, but he played defense. Kuzma might not have been Rashard Lewis or hit open threes on a regular basis, but he improved his defense. He's got the length. I am to blame. I blame myself too for not supporting those guys enough.
And now we have this, Joe. We now have this that's going on in El Segundo. So we'll see as the coaching calamity continues, the soap opera. I will call it a soap opera of what's going on in El Segundo. That's, you know what? That would be a great name for a new soap opera. El Segundo. As El Segundo turns. How about that, Joe?
I don't think it's a soap opera. I think it's a horror show.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you didn't drop the S bomb when you wanted to say.
I've noticed since we stopped aggressively cursing that our numbers started going up. So there must have been some algorithm that allowed things to get back to normal. I talked to Sean about this. I talked to Sean about it. There has to be a correlation. So this is and you know, when you curse too much, it takes away from the dialogue. Anyways, I think it was a little mature on our part for doing that.
That's what TikTok said when they permanently banned us.
Bleep TikTok. Those guys can die in battery acid for all I care. Scumbags. They sent death threats to the producer of that Netflix movie.
Did they?
Mm-hmm. Look, I can get into some really good stuff here, but I don't want to veer off into that.
Yeah, that's not.
There's stuff going on, and again, I have legitimate information that it is true because there's people that work in security. I'll just leave it at that. They work in securities and high places.
Let's talk more about Corrupt, if that's the case. So
Sure,
Corrupt,
sure.
You know, any more feedback on Corrupt before we head on out?
Corrupt is likely to launch. We have a date of July 19th, and there is some talk right now with Sony about partnership. My assessment on how this is going to play out is the only people that are going to show up are those who see us get off the mat on our own, and then they'll try to make good after that.
Would make a good game on Game Pass. That's all I'm saying.
We've been approved for Game Pass. Whether they put us on there is to be discussed. Maybe one day. Right now, we are banking on an audience that's festering, that's waiting.
Okay.
And we saw a really good group at the Guerrilla Collective this last weekend. I was very surprised at how much fun I had there around a lot of independent developers, a lot of people we talked to that were part of the industry, good networking skill sets, I should say. And it was pretty obvious that that Corrupt was was probably the most advanced game there. A lot of I call them the cartoon type games, the pixelated type games that you saw there. A lot of that was a lot of the independent stuff. That's what usually it is. We had more of a AAA look, and we've been able to do it on a budget that's apparently not the norm. And for the price that you're going to be able to get the game, and the fact that it's, from what I'm being told, is a very fun game. So you tell me, Gerald, okay? You have a fighting game that has a story that no one's heard before. It's a new universe, new property.
It's a brand new IP.
Brand new IP. You have graphics that are better than what an indie usually can produce. I'm not going to say it's AAA. I'm not going to go that way. That's to be debated by the crowd. And then on top of that, you have fun gameplay. And as a bonus, you're not going to pay $60 to $70 for the game. You're likely going to play, you get it for, I know the beginning of it, there will be a discount, but you're looking at a game that's going to be between $20 and $30.
There you go. Bag of Dragon says, how to make real money, make a new version of NBA Street.
Well, you're going to have to talk to Adam Silver about that.
Yeah, the way they license things out. I know that there's an arcade game coming out with the NBA that's going to be a evolution of NBA Jam. I believe it's NBA Superstars, if I'm not mistaken. There is a YouTube video of it out. It is going to be at your arcade, and I put that in new terms as far as whatever the 2024 arcades are now, which is predominantly either the claw machines or the big overarching humongous arcade machines with the big themes on it, whether it's Jurassic Park or whatever, that huge Halo or whatever huge arcade games that they put there in there. Now, not the old classic ones. This one's going to be a huge one. NBA Superstars, 4 players, arcade games. Yeah, look out for it. That's the first non 2K licensed NBA video game I've seen in quite some time. So maybe that I like to go back, Joe, to the early 2000s when so many developers had licenses for the NBA. Like you had Microsoft, Sony, you had 2K, you had EA, you had all these different entities making NBA games. Now, because of the monopoly that sometimes these developers have and publishers have, it's kind of disappointing the way it's just one game, 2K, and that's it every single year.
And that's happened in all facets of business. Cell phones, computers in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's all the same. TVs, Vizio is a Sony parts with another name on it. Nothing's real, it seems, these days, and everything is monopolized. Darren has mentioned, though, I wondered after Magic Johnson had to retire, it wasn't that bad. No, actually, it wasn't, Darren. The Lakers actually were competitive, but that's because they still had James Worthy, AC Green. Sedell Threatt was acquired from the Seattle Supersonics at that time, and he was a huge fan favorite. And the Lakers hit on a second round pick that normally you don't hit on, which was Nick Van Exel, and they hit on Eddie Jones. So they had good drafts, first and second rounds. They had the Eldon Campbells. They had Vlade Divac. They had acquisitions that worked with that team, and they were a fun team.
Who was the GM?
Jerry West.
There you go. I think you just answered your own question.
It was a fun team. I remember those teams. The 93 team that almost beat Phoenix in the first round. The 95 team that beat the Sonics in 4 games in the first round, that gave the San Antonio Spurs fits, especially Van Exel. Van Exel was giving San Antonio the business in that series. It's just that there was too much talent on San Antonio, and they ended up winning in 6. But Anthony Peeler, George Lynch, they're not, superstars, but these guys all were successes with their talents.
Solid role players.
Solid. No, hardly any busts in that middle 90s era. Everybody contributed. I think the only bust before then was David Rivers in '89.
Earl Jones was what year? 87?
Yeah, that was a few years earlier.
Yeah.
But the 90s were fun. They were a fun team. We loved them. They got Cedric Sabalas from Phoenix before they sent him back for Robert Horry. It was a fun team. We knew the Lakers fans knew they weren't going to win a championship, but they were a fun team to watch. We supported them, and they're still fan favorites. We still love Nicky V. We still love Eddie Jones. Still love Sidel 3. And it was fun. It was a fun transition. It was fun to transition from that to eventually what ended up being the Kobe and Shaq era. And that was the difference, guys. There was still people in charge that knew what they were doing. And Jerry West had to adjust when he did. No one was expecting Magic Johnson to get sick and be gone in an instant. And there's no way you can prepare for that. But boy, did they bridge that gap as good as they could. And they did until Shaq and Kobe arrived. And then, of course, it took a few years for them to get acclimated. And then, of course, they added Rick Fox, Robert Horry, and D. Fish in that circle, Brian Shaw, Ron Harper, and then the rest is history. Beautiful, beautiful time.
But now we're having a time of our own, just trying to get a coach and see what happens.
And I remember when Kobe asked to be traded, I was torn between supporting Kobe and understanding that what did you really want Mitch Kupchak to do? We were caught in that. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to get? You're over the cap. There's a lot of things there that happened because Shaq decided he wanted to leave because he wouldn't take 20 mil. Of course, even if he did take 20 mil, Kobe would have likely left. There was, a lot of that drama that went on in the mid 2000s was because of Shaq and Kobe. So it wasn't, if you want to be real about it, it was Shaq and Kobe's fault that whole thing blew up. It wasn't Mitch Kupchak's fault because he couldn't get talent and Dr. Buss didn't want to do anything. Come on, that wasn't fair. I blame Kobe a little bit on that. But they did right the ship and ended up going to 3 finals in a row and winning 2 championships. And that's kind of, different scenarios in both cases. Right now, there's no one that's capable of running this organization in that way. I don't see anyone that's in charge right now that can do what Mitch did, what Jerry did.
But we'll see what happens, and we'll be here to report about it right here on the Lakers Fast Break. So make sure you are liked and subscribed to everything that we do. We'll be here for you. Any last thoughts, my friend, as we get out of this late night with the Lakers Fast Break before we head on
out? Say a prayer if you believe in something, because it's looking like the Lakers are not going to get their coach, even if they hire a coach. We're going to be back here again shortly. Hopefully, the next time this happens, the person who hires this coach is the one that goes as well.
There you go. But if you have any questions for us, please comment below if you're watching this after the show went live, or you could always go ahead and email us, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com, or follow us on all of our different platforms outside of TikTok, Lakers Fast Break, because we're still available everywhere you get your social media. So for Joe Sorrell, it's Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for watching this thing. Big shout out to BD on Twitch, and big shout out to Xbox, Eric, Pale, Scarlet and Blue, Bloodhound, everyone. That was a great part of what we're doing. Big Darren, Big D in the house. Great to have you here. Abraham, everyone that was a part of what we're doing tonight. Best Lakers chat room that's out there is, of course, always right here at the Lakers Fast Break. Scarlet and Blue says, can't remember that guy's name, is still not as bad when they couldn't get any free agent to even come in. And they interviewed the guy so poorly that he did a mercy second visit. Who was that? That wasn't Aldridge, was it?
Yes.
Oh, LaMarcus Aldridge. Okay. Because I know LaMarcus Aldridge, eventually spurned the Lakers. I didn't know. I forgot it. He courted them and gave them a second look. I know he gave them a first look out of courtesy.
Yeah, he ended up saying to whomever that they all they talked about was marketing and BS, and they didn't understand that this is a guy from Texas who just wanted to play basketball.
Yep.
Another story of how these dinkuses can't read the room. They don't do any research. They're too busy walking their goddamn dogs. Go walk your dogs and hire some real people that know what they're doing. You weak ass freaking schleppers. I'm so just disgusted by people like this having these positions. Seriously.
Do you still have your Rob Pelinka mask somewhere?
I burned it.
Might have to make another one. Who knows? Who knows? You might have to make another one.
No, seriously. I mean, no, let's be real. You just brought back another bad memory. You couldn't even convince LaMarcus Aldridge, who was focused on basketball, to play basketball. How bad are you?
Not yet, Scarlet and Blue. It's not as bad yet, but it's not heading in a good direction right now. But we'll see.
It's looking like they're going to hire a coach that will not be here in 2 years, maybe even 1 year. The only thing we can hope for is Big Ten man goes with this next coach that's not going to be here in a few years.
And with that, BD says, send in Rick Fox. It is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro along with me, Joe Glassford. Thanks again for watching us. Truly appreciate it. Hopefully we'll be back tomorrow. I know I'm trying to line up some interviews with some great guests coming in. I know Legend 350 said he wanted to do a show talking about the Atlanta Hawks and what they may do at number 1, or could they trade Trey or Murray here to the Lakers? We'll talk about that in the coming days. And also Alfred Esmond is coming back on the show here later this week as well. So looking forward to it. Pale says not as bad as Venezuela.
You mean the country?
Good point.
Aren't they doing better?
I don't know. Possibly. I don't know. I haven't kept up on my Venezuelan affairs as of late. So
We'll have to talk about that on the next show.
Yeah, maybe next time. But it is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening. Truly appreciated. We'll catch you next time. Late night, early night, sometime in the afternoon. Who knows? When we appear, we'll go ahead and try and give you the heads up. But always stay alert on when we're out and about right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.